John Foster, documentary interview, sit-down interview. Rolling camera.
I'd like to visit a little bit with you about what I call the Courtyard of Honor. The World War I monument was put here in 1929, 11 years after the end of World War I. It was financed by a $1,000 grant from the state of Missouri and a $1,000 grant from the county of Cass. And a man by the name of Kling from Butler, Missouri is the one that came up with the idea of the doughboy. A lot of detail went into it. It was hand carved. It is made out of Delaware granite and was erected here in 1929. Of course, shipped into rail, and at that time the walls were not around the courthouse, and he had to make his own base, and then he had to make a tower out of railroad ties in order to lift it into place. So it's been here 100+ years, and it's welcomed people into the Cass County Square on the southwest corner all that time. In 2018 was the 100th year anniversary of World War I. And Florence Phillips, among some other ladies, we suggested that we try and come up with the 53 names of the World War I veterans to put at the foot of the doughboy. Of the 53 names on there, of Cass County men, only 25 were battle casualties. 26 were Spanish flu casualties. A pandemic that went through the nation, an estimated 650,000 people. And now we are at about 550,000 with the pandemic we've got going on now. So the more times change, the more they don't change. We were ill prepared for a pandemic, and I hope there's a lesson on this. Of the 53 that's on here, 5 of those men were the men that were sworn in right down here on the pavement in 1917, and they had lost their lives in battle. I have no idea what happened to all the other men, but those fellows that were sworn here in 1917, you have an opportunity to see the enhanced picture that is in the Chamber Fellowship Hall. Lloyd Van Meter, the World War I soldier. John Avery Van Meter, which was his brother. Now that mother lost 2 sons, one in each war. And then lo and behold, as fate would have it, she lost her 3rd son as a police officer on the Kansas City Police Force. I happen to know those men's brother. He was a businessman here in Harrisonville. He was Harvey Van Meter, and he had the Cass County Cleaners. That building that is down there today on North Independence Street, I helped rebuild in 1956. Another family that was hit doubly hard was the Whistler family. The Whistler family lost 2 sons in World War II. Can't tell you much about it, but their bios are in the books that has been put together on all of the 166 men that are here. Names are engraved in granite. The American Legion was organized here, and immediately after the war, the name of the American Legion is the Hurley Lee Spicer, son of Lee Spicer, who was the mayor of Harrisonville for about 10 years. He was working with horses, loading them onto a livestock car, and anyhow, he got kicked by one of those horses, knocked completely out of the car onto a adjoining track, lost an arm under a train, passed away, and that's when they honored the Spicer family by naming that American Legion. And it's number 42, so they was early on to get that done. And then the American Legion building was dedicated in June of 1942. We had the Vietnam and the Korean monuments were at the end of Locust Street, where Locust Street did into Commercial Street, which was out in front of the old armory. That was put in 1984. This is not good English, but it was a bastard location and very unhandy for the honor guard to go and fire salute in honor of these men. There was a gawker drove down the highway one day and nearly jumped the curb and nearly got into the honor guard. That caused concern for concerned citizens that this should be relocated. Had to be a negotiated event in order to get the privilege to move those monuments from that location and put them on the courthouse lawn. We put the names of the Vietnam, the Korean men. 2 of the Korean men are MIAs. Their bodies have never been found. Claude Batty was missing in action, and Ralph King was missing in action. I did not know either one of those men, but I knew the brothers of Ralph. I know his widow. This is a sad situation whenever you're lost and missing in action. Vietnam here, we have 5 men whose names is here that was Cass County boys, and Larry Wayne Knox was a Harrisonville High School student. Went into the Marines immediately after high school and was in Vietnam a very, very short time and was killed by a sniper. And then Spanish-American men, there's 8 of those men, and one of them was a Medal of Honor. So we put their monument there. There was a volunteer infantry group called Company E of the 5th Regiment. They were sent from Harrisonville to the Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis, and before they could get trained, why the war had ended. And in that, why some of those men volunteered for the Philippine-American War in the Philippine Islands. These 7 men whose names on this monument were part of that. Sterling Galt was one of those men. He was a sergeant in the military, leading a squad of men that was trapped by floodwater. He was able to free those men by swimming through a river of floodwater with a rope in his mouth, and 5 years after the incident, why he was honored with the Medal of Honor. In that, we need to talk about that some of the men that was in the regiment of volunteers that went to Jefferson Barracks came back to Harrisonville, Missouri, and they formed Company F of the 36th Volunteer Infantry. A lawyer by the name of C.W. Hyde here in Harrisonville built a building down the street here off the southwest corner for an armory for those men, and they occupied it in 1906, according to the Harrisonville newspaper of that day. We're on the 200 block of South Independence Street, and at the corner of the Beck Event Center. This is the building that was built in 1906 and to be used as an armory. There's no question in my mind that it is a standard blueprint a National Guard used in those days, because in my days I remember staying in an armory or 2 of this design. It's about 60 foot wide with a barrel ceiling, and it has 10 windows on the side. Then on the back of the building, they added a 2-story building after they done away with the Missouri National Guard, and they converted it into a garage. We're standing in front of the stone of Jacob Carver. Jacob was killed November the 13th, 2012, which is anniversary, but 3 days ago. He was a victim of a suicide bomber, a young lad that had a suicide bomb in a backpack and come upon him, and it was designated and wiped Jacob out. A boy that was killed when the Marine barracks blew up in Beirut in 1983, I believe it was the first terrorist attack on U.S. troops. A truck bomb was driven in under a barracks in Beirut, Lebanon, and exploded and killed over 200 Marines. And 1 Cass County man was in that group of men that was killed. So here we are, many, many years later. We're still fighting terrorists, and it may be worse now than it ever was. He was part of the beginning of all of that. We're grateful for the maintenance crew here on the courthouse that keeps this Courtyard of Honor looking as neat as it is. No easy task. We trust that people will look come by and look at it. Think about the names. Think about the price of freedom. You've heard the story about the monument at Memorial Field, and we put those names on granite here at the Courtyard of Honor. 10 years later, a decision was made that we do the World War I casualties. And this is bios of all 53 men of that. And then 2 years after that, while we done the casualties of the Spanish-American War, the Korean and Vietnam, and of course the Beirut terrorist attack, and the Afghanistan death. So these books are available at the Cass County Historical Society. I do not know the price of them, but there's a bio on all 166 men that is engraved in granite on the Courtyard of Honor. If you have an opportunity to go see them, I think you'll find it interesting. And anyhow, any other questions?
I think we probably need to wrap up for today. These kids got to get to their next class. So we will, I think, let's stop recording. So they're going to pull this stuff back, look at it, and probably set up a time after spring break where we can maybe take you to different locations and get some shots and talk a little bit there. Is that, do you have any other ideas?
I'm on